Yes! Hello, my beautiful friends. It's an amazing day today. We are jumping right in live. President Trump is meeting with the Israeli Prime Minister, Bibi Netanyahu. They just sat down moments ago. This is live. Let's listen in.
I'm sure the president is happy that they're here, and I would think that's about enough.
President Trump, Prime Minister, what about Elizabeth Cutoff, the Israeli hostage held in Iraq?
What about the Israeli press taking a press conference in Israel and not in Washington?
We would love to take a press conference. Prime Minister Netanyahu, President Trump. A few more questions. Prime Minister Netanyahu, do you support going forward with this deal and getting all the hostages out?
I support getting all the hostages out and meeting all our war goals.
Can you do that?
That includes destroying Hamas's military and governing capabilities and making sure that Gaza never poses a threat to Israel again.
Are you willing?
All three.
Are you willing to go together? Are you willing to promise to the families that you bring all the hostages out?
I think that I should talk to President Trump.
So
Okay.
I'll ask, do you agree with Trump's vision of getting all the hostages back home, even if it means to end the war?
Well, I'm not sure that you articulate correctly what the president's vision is. You can ask, he can speak for himself. He does that very, very well. I have my own views, 3 goals, not 1, not 2, 3 goals, and I will meet all 3 goals. I think the president can help enormously. He brings fresh thinking.
That terrorists who murdered hundreds of people were listed their home as a part of the deal.
It's a horrible thing. We can't forget it. I'll never forget it, and you can't forget it. And some people want to put it out of their memory, but we're not going to ever let that happen. It was a horrible day, October 7th. That was a horrible period of time. And a lot of people like to pretend it didn't happen. It happened. It's a big group of people that like to pretend it didn't happen, like the Holocaust didn't happen. Same mindset. No, we're going to get this thing wrapped up, and we're going to get it done. We're also dealing, I think, very successfully with Russia, Ukraine. We're going to hopefully get that one done at some point in the not too distant future. That's a complex problem also, but we solve problems. When I left, we had no problem. There was no Ukraine and Russia fighting. There was no October 7th. There was nothing. And some very poor leadership led to a lot of problems and a lot of death. And it's a shame, but we'll put it out. We'll put out the fires. We have a lot of fires, but we'll put them out.
Why do you support the Palestinian state like the peace plan you presented in January 2020? Is this plan still on the table?
Well, a lot of plans change with time, and a lot of death has occurred since I left and now came back. This death occurred not while I was here, but while somebody else was here. It shouldn't have happened. They shouldn't have allowed it to happen. It would have never happened. And that includes Russia, Ukraine would have never happened. Not even a little bit, not even a chance. But now we are faced with a situation that's different, in some ways better and in some ways worse. But we're faced with a very complex and difficult situation, but we'll solve the problem.
If not Jordan, Egypt, what other countries you think might accept Palestinians from Gaza?
Well, I think Jordan and Egypt will. I know they've spoken about it with you, and they say they're not going to accept. I say they will. But I think other countries will accept also. I think that Gaza maybe is a demolition site right now. If you look at Gaza, there's hardly a building standing, and the ones that are going to collapse. You can't live in Gaza right now. And I think we need another location. I think it should be a location that's going to make people happy. You look over the decades, it's all death in Gaza. This has been happening for years. It's all death. If we can get a beautiful area to resettle people permanently in nice homes and where they can be happy and not be shot, not be killed, not be knifed to death like what's happening in Gaza. And right now you have in Gaza a very dangerous situation in terms of explosives all over the place. In terms of tunnels that nobody knows who's in the tunnel. The whole thing is a mess. And I think that if we can resettle, and I believe we can do it in areas where the leaders currently say no. I mean, I've been saying that with Mexico, having to do with the border and all of the things. And you saw what happened, 10,000 soldiers, and they're going to do a good job. I really believe that. And I believe Canada is going to do a good job also. And they said the same thing. And then they did something much different than what you were hearing. This is a very, very difficult situation, but we're going to get it solved. I don't think people should be going back to Gaza. I think that Gaza has been very unlucky for them. They've lived like hell. They lived like you're living in hell. Gaza is not a place for people to be living. And the only reason they want to go back, and I believe this strongly, is because they have no alternative. What's the alternative? Go where? There's no other alternative. If they had an alternative, they'd much rather not go back to Gaza and live in a beautiful alternative that's safe.
Mr. President,
Peter?
Would Palestinians have the right to return to Gaza if they left while the rebuilding was happening?
It would be my hope that we could do something really nice, really good, where they wouldn't want to return. Why would they want to return? The place has been hell. It's been one of the meanest, toughest places on earth. And right now, it's
Who's that
I've
reporter?
seen every picture from every angle, better than if I were there. And nobody can live there. You can't live there. So if we can build them through massive amounts of money supplied by other people, very rich nations, and they're willing to supply it. If we can build something for them in one of the countries, and it could be Jordan, it could be Egypt, it could be other countries, and you could build 4 or 5 or 6 areas. It doesn't have to be one area, but you take certain areas and you build really good quality housing, like a beautiful town, like someplace where they can live and not die. Because Gaza is a guarantee that they're going to end up dying. The same thing's going to happen again. It's happened over and over again, and it's going to happen again as sure as you're standing there, Peter. So I hope that we could do something where they wouldn't want to go back. Who would want to go back? They've experienced nothing but death and destruction.
What would the tweet from
what will you do then?
Well, I don't think they're going to tell me no. I think they're going to.
what will you do?
I think they're going to tell Biden no, and I think they're going to tell other people no.
So you think it will happen at the end?
I think there's a good chance. Yeah.
How
I can see
many
it
people are you thinking about?
happening. All of them. I mean, we're talking
All of
about
them.
probably 1,000,007 people, 1,000,007, maybe 1,000,008. But I think all of them. I think they'll be resettled in areas where they can live a beautiful life and not be worried about dying every day.
Mr. President, do you support building settlements, Jewish settlements back in Gaza in the next years?
Say it.
Building settlements, Jewish settlements back in Gaza in the next year. Do you support this idea?
I don't see it happening. It's too dangerous for people. Nobody can go there. It's too dangerous. Nobody wants to be there. Warriors don't want to be there. Soldiers don't want to be there. How can you have people go back? You're saying go back into Gaza now? The same thing's going to happen. It'll only be death. The best way to do it is you go out and you get beautiful, open areas with the sunlight coming through. And
No, that's not what I meant. I meant building Israeli
They are not
settlements
going to
back in
want
Gaza.
They are not going to want to go back to Gaza.
Prime Minister Netanyahu, what is your message to the families of the hostages that look at this deal, that are worried that this deal won't go through? What do you say to them at this moment?
Same message I said from the beginning of the war. Get them out, get them back. We got over 70%, close to 75% of the people who everybody believed will not get out. We got them in successive deals, and most recently with the help of President Trump. We're not going to give up on any of them, and we're not going to give up on our other war aims. Hamas is not going to be in Gaza, and we're going to get everyone back.
And you would not have.
Prime Minister, how optimistic are you about reaching phase 2 of the ceasefire? How optimistic are you about that happening?
Well, we're going to try. That's one of the reasons, one of the things we're going to talk about here. And
Is it possible
if we, you know, when Israel and the United States work together, and President Trump and I work together, you know, the chances go up a lot. It's when we don't work together, Israel and the United States don't work together, that creates problems. When the other side sees daylight between us, and occasionally in the last few years, to put it mildly, they saw daylight, then it's more difficult. When we cooperate,
It's the right
chances are good.
once and for all.
Say it.
Now that Iran is so weak, isn't it the right time to get their facilities once and for all?
So you say Iran is so weak. I appreciate you saying that. They're not weak. They're very strong right now, and we're not We're not going to allow them to have a nuclear weapon. It's very simple. You know, I signed a very strong proclamation. Iran was in big trouble when I left. They were broke. They didn't have money for Hamas. They didn't have any money for Hezbollah. You had no problem. October 7th could have never happened. When I left, October 7th could have never happened. And frankly, Russia and Ukraine, as I said, could never have happened. They became very strong, very fast. They sold massive amounts of oil to China and everybody else who would not buy the oil when I was president, because we said, don't buy the oil. And they became very rich very quickly. But they're not weak. They're not weak. They're strong. Doesn't mean they won't be weak. But you know what? We just don't want them to have a nuclear weapon. They can't have a nuclear weapon.
Live at the White House.
The Prime Minister wants you to strike Iran. That's what he wants.
You don't know what he wants. What do you know about anything? Go ahead.
But is that option is on the table?
please.
President Trump, is that option on the table?
You're not just talking about Jordan. No, it could be other places too.
So in the goal.
There are many people that have reached out, many countries, many leaders of countries that have reached out that would like to participate in that. Doesn't have to be Jordan and Egypt, but I think it would be also them.
Mr. President, your relationship with Mr. Netanyahu knew ups and downs. How do you describe it right
No,
now?
I think it's mostly ups.
Mr. President, what about the Palestinian Authority? Should it rule Gaza because Gaza will be empty?
What?
The Palestinian Authority, can it rule Gaza? What do you think?
JD
Well,
has
it's
the
had a
best
pretty
job.
hard time, wouldn't you say? I'd say it's had a pretty bad time of it.
Mr.
Okay.
President, Qatar has, you've criticized them in the past as a funder of terrorism, so as the Prime Minister. Do you think they're part of the solution or part of a problem moving forward?
I think they're trying to help. Qatar
Yep.
is absolutely trying to help. I know them very well, and they're doing everything they can. Very tough situation, but they're absolutely trying to help.
Well, you've been
Okay,
in Israel?
thank you very much, everyone.
All right. Throw him out.
Thank you guys. We'll see him soon. Thank you guys. Come on. Let's go.
Little different vibe than the last administration. They actually took some questions. All right, so JD's just chilling over there.
Thank you guys. Let's go.
We don't spend a lot of time here talking about this issue, as you know, but it does sound like that was a pretty big endorsement from the president on a major move, which would be to resettle the Palestinians into other locations. He said 1 million, 7 plus. So pretty big story there. So that was happening today at the White House. They're done. There's a bunch of other stuff happening today. It's been kind of jamming. So let me give you a quick update on what else is happening. And then we'll get into the meat and potatoes on the day because we got some good stuff. We're going to talk about the FBI that is now terrified and in utter panic and is now suing the Trump administration. I've got 2 lawsuits that we'll go through. You can see here, one is a class action by a bunch of FBI feds. All right. They're all suing the DOJ. I can't wait. You got another one too. Jane Doe, John Doe. They're all, keeping their anonymity and they're all suing the DOJ. Oh, how the tables have turned, have they not? So we'll go through those. We'll get reaction on this. We'll check back in with our friend from yesterday, Garret O'Boyle, who is also continuing to publish more insider information. And we've got a message from the acting FBI director, this guy, Brian Driscoll. So lots of fun coming up there. Then we'll talk about some USAID stuff because they are also now suing the Treasury Department and essentially Elon because they're so freaked out that their grift is coming to an end. And this is going to be brought by Alliance for Retired Americans and other entities. And so we'll go through all of that. I've got a bunch of reaction to the USAID stuff. We got Rubio, who's out there talking about this, and then a bunch of meltdowns. I think I've even got AOC. We got Ilhan, who is going to be upset about Trump's most recent announcement. AOC coming up, and then some other great clips and more reaction. But I wanted to share what else was happening today on C-SPAN because we were just finishing with the Israeli Prime Minister. The Democrats were out. I think they're still out right now. Oh, yeah.
Raise your hand.
Okay, so this is live.
We are proud of you.
This is live. Okay, so this has been going on basically like all day and yesterday. They were doing this crap yesterday. Have you ever seen the Democrats so mad in your life? Oh my gosh. They even brought out this senator, this representative. And someone needs to turn the game down on the mic.
Accounts, all of that information now belongs to Elon Musk. All of the people.
What's her
all
name?
All the people who receive any check.
Maxine Waters.
Refund,
that's it.
Your information is now with Elon Musk.
Good.
And all of the Americans who pay taxes, your information is with Elon Musk. Every American's information is at risk. Your privacy, your security, every one of you. What is Elon Musk going to do with that information? What does Elon Musk do with anything he touches? He makes money. He's going to make money from.
All right, so these are the Democrats. They dragged Maxine Waters out. She was looking amazing today, as always, just outstanding. And you notice he's got a little bit of a shake going on when he's holding that microphone, a little shake in that hand. I don't know if that's a new thing or a known thing, but pretty interesting. So anyways, they're all out there. They're furious about USAID. We'll come back on that. We'll check in on that and keep our eyes on what's happening there. Now, in the Senate, there's also more work happening on the cabinet nominations for the president. And so this woman is a senator from Nevada. They think that they're going to have a vote for Pam Bondi later tonight, unless that got accelerated up. Pam Bondi is likely to be voted in tonight. In fact, while we're here and we're just kind of poking around, let's take a look and see what the Senate most recent schedule looks like to see if they have updated this for us. You can see we're here today and don't see anything. Oh, well, let's see. Yeah, so I don't know when Pam Bondi is going to be, whether they'll vote on it today or not, but we'll keep our eye on that one. Okay, so anyways, that's what's happening out there. Now, let's get into the business on the day, because this is just a ton of fun. The FBI in a state of utter terror, living in fear that they might lose their jobs, maybe that they'll be investigated for breaking the law and committing crimes. You see, our friend Colin Rugg and others have clipped this one for us and shared what this guy, former FBI individual executive called Andy McCabe, said when he was on with CNN. And we're going to see what the FBI is trying to do about this, because now FBI agents are suing Trump. I've got two lawsuits queued up here for us. This one's filed in the District of Columbia. It's a class action by FBI agents, employees, suing the DOJ. Don't fire us. You can't do this. This is illegal. Another one here, not a class action, but brought by a bunch of anonymous FBI people, again, versus the DOJ. And wait until we read these. They're so offended. Now they're suing the DOJ. It's just beautiful. All right, so here's this latest from Andy McCabe. FBI in utter chaos, living in terror. Here's what he said.
Fully unprecedented.
Oh, hang on. I have to turn off the Democrats, the loud Democrats. Sorry about that. Here's Andy McCabe.
FBI rank and file agents and analysts who make up the vast majority of the field offices who do the work of investigating these cases, of executing search warrants, of executing arrest warrants, doing surveillance, electronic surveillance, whatever it might be. Those people are never touched by the political winds that blow through every 4 years. Nor should.
That's the problem. That's been the problem. They've been lifers there. And they've been part of the bureaucracy that has been the problem.
They be. They, as you said, they don't pick their work. They're assigned to the work that they do. The work they do is lawful.
No, it isn't.
It's within FBI policies, and not doing the work is not really an option for them, right? They come to the FBI. Most of them come intending to stay for the entirety of their careers, 20 years or more, 20 years on the agent side, a little bit more for the support side. And so to be targeted in this way for termination potentially or retribution simply for doing their jobs on a major national security case is incomprehensible to them or anybody that knows the organization. I've talked to.
Well, then they should not be employed because they can't comprehend that. You know, that's a comprehension problem that maybe should be rectified by them getting a job somewhere else that requires lower comprehension skills, because they have to be able to deviate and distinguish between right and wrong. Just following orders isn't what they are signed up to do, right? Is that what we want from the FBI? That's what they wanted. That's what they got. That's what they built for the last however many decades. Now it's coming to an end.
more FBI people in the last 4 days than I did in the prior 4 years.
He's spoken to more of them in the last 4 days than 4 years. They're freaked.
As John has described it accurately, it is a place in utter disarray right now. People are worried about, how am I going to pay the bills? How am I going to support my family? If I lose, if you're anywhere in the middle of that career, not close to retirement, if you get fired, you're done. That's the end of your reputation, your ability to get a new job.
Should have thought of that before you violated your oath and wrecked and trampled on innocent Americans and violated their presumption of innocence and violated their due process rights. Like lunatics ransacking a store on Black Friday, right? They just go in, they take everything. That's what the FBI was doing for the last 4 years. They thought they were going to get away with it too. They were all going to be sitting at home with their big screen TVs and their J6 defendants' civil rights all over their walls. Well, we know who took those rights, and we're coming to get them back, and they've been taken back. And everybody who ransacked the store, in this case, America, is now being penalized for that. So I have zero sympathy for them at all. The just following orders crap, don't care. And by the way, the FBI was very aggressive in prosecuting not only the J6ers, but everybody else, right? The people who would speak up at their schools, the Catholics in their schools. They were lecturing all of us about COVID and helping to enforce the lockdowns and all of the things. So they can go figure out some other profession that they can use with their lower comprehension skills, and good luck to them.
You lose your pay, you lose your chance at a pension, you lose your health insurance.
That's what happened to the J6ers, 1,500 of them who got rounded up by youth people.
This is a moment of terror for these people. It is absolutely disgraceful that they are being put through this in the middle of some political gamesmanship or active retribution. They don't deserve to be treated this way. It's unlawful and it's disgusting.
No, it's perfectly lawful. They're the ones who broke the law. And I don't know about you guys, but I got a hankering for some double mint gum. What do you think? All right, so these two were having a fun interview there where they just gave him an opportunity to come out and to run his mouth about how incredible and amazing the FBI is and how offensive it is that they would be held accountable to justice, to the law. And it's fun to watch. Now, this is shocking as well. We here have made fun of the January 6th numbers for years, since the very beginning. We go, what? 1,500 cases? That's like the biggest operation. They kept coming out. Merrick Garland, remember him? Come out and he'd say, biggest operation since the Civil War. DOJ and the FBI mobilized resources from every asset and agency and deployed them through every facet and function around this country. What the hell's he talking about? You have 1,500 criminal cases. Do you know how many cases a regular small town prosecutor can handle in 1 year? Pick one. It's more than 1,500. And it took all of the DOJ and the FBI 4 years to prosecute 1,500 cases. We looked the numbers up. I always forget what they are because I'm terrible with numbers. But it's like 50,000, I think, a month or something in New York, something like that. Hundreds of thousands of felonies. Maybe not a month, but a lot, right? 50,000 a year, and they handle these irregular felony cases. In other words, multiple, times more than what the DOJ was doing. Anyways, all that being said, what an embarrassment it was. That was presuming that we had like 1,000 FBI agents, maybe 1,000 total between them and the DOJ. Turns out that number is 5,000. FBI turns over the details of 5,000 employees. What? For 1,500 cases? So that would mean like a group of 3 1/4 would be working for years on one case, like on one defendant. Okay, you would imagine if you would work on multiple cases. Okay, like if you're a lawyer, for example, you don't just work on one client at a time. You've got multiple cases, you've got multiple things you're doing, you file a motion, you wait, you launch this, you wait, you do this stuff, right? So FBI agents should be able to handle multiple cases. So what were they doing this whole time? If it's like 3 1/4 agents to 1, 3 1/3 or whatever it is to 1, what were they doing this entire time? We don't need them, obviously, because they weren't doing any work. FBI officials have complied with demands to provide the Justice Department officials with details of thousands of employees who worked on investigations. The demand has caused consternation among FBI employees who fear it's meant to amass a list of personnel responsible for what they've done and lead to possible termination. I hope so. Acting Deputy Director Emil Bove on a Friday last week sent a memo with the word terminations in it that gave them a deadline on Tuesday to submit details of how many corrupt FBI feds were investigating the J6ers and the rest of us. More than 5,000 employee details were submitted, including employee ID numbers, job details, and their roles in the January 6 investigations. Absolutely amazing. And I wonder how many of those, as we read yesterday, opted to use that stupid other form that the FBI AA, their agents association, recommended they use and told them to put in a little disclaimer in there. I'm submitting this under duress because I'm an FBI agent and I don't know how to think for myself. There are more than 13,000 agents and 38,000 total FBI employees. So 5,000 out of 13 if you want to call these agents, or 5,000 out of 38,000 if you want to just count them and as total employees. Whatever the number is, it's big. Now, meanwhile, officials dispatched by Elon have been seen at the FBI. Let's go. Musk has headed up efforts by President Trump under DOJ. Several FBI employees on Tuesday sued the DOJ. We've got those lawsuits queued up, accusing the DOJ of violating the Constitution and their right to privacy by purging personnel at the Bureau. The agents want a federal judge to stop Trump from publishing or releasing the surveys that they've submitted. No, they work for us. They work for the government. They work for the American people. The very act of compiling lists of persons, they wrote in their lawsuit. Let's go to them and read them because they're very upset about it. Now, here's another post. An internal FBI document. This came over from NBC. This number has ballooned massively. So this came out yesterday. It was 2,400. Oh, let me say this. 2,400 investigations in total. So 5,000 FBI employees working on 2,400 investigations in total. An internal FBI document obtained by NBC News shows that executives use the FBI Sentinel case management system to identify FBI agents and employees who worked on the J6 cases. The document says there were around 2,400 investigations in total. The document says the search of case files was used to generate a list of names who then received a survey asking them exactly what they did on these cases. This is being viewed within the FBI as a retribution mission. Well, they can call it whatever they want. They broke the law. They were raiding the candy store and thought they were going to get away with it, but they have not. Now they're getting scrutiny for it. Now they're freaking out. Like babies, the FBI suing the DOJ. You can't investigate us. We have rights. Funny for them to say that after they spent the last 4 years violating everybody else's rights without blinking an eye. Here is the lawsuit filed against the Department of Justice, James McHenry, acting Attorney General, brought in the District of Columbia, the worst circuit ever, brought by 9 FBI employees, agents and employees of the FBI, saying, we're suing you for firing us. Here's what they write. Plaintiffs who are suing are currently employed FBI feds and employees. We'll just call them feds. During the course of their duties, they participated in investigations of criminal activity related to J6. They're like, we're caught. We're busted. We got to sue. At the Capitol, they say they were at the behest of Trump and the unlawful removal, retention of classified documents. Okay, so got it. All right. I misread that. But either case, right, the 2 criminal cases, the Florida classified documents case and the J6 case. Now, upon returning to the presidency, Trump, which is like epic, Trump has ordered the DOJ to conduct a review and purge of FBI personnel involved in these investigations and prosecutions. They say this directive is unlawful and it's retaliatory and it violates the Civil Service Reform Act. Hilarious. The president is retaliatory. The president can't make changes within the executive branch. He just got elected. Good luck with that argument. So let's see where this goes. They say, additionally, on February 2nd, these whiny FBI babies were instructed to fill out a survey that would identify their role in the J6 and Mar-a-Lago cases. Well, what, you should have your notes in the case file anyways. Aren't you proud of your work defending American democracy? Aren't you proud of your work stopping an insurrection from happening, you weirdos? Some plaintiffs were required to fill out the survey themselves. Others were told that their supervisors would be filling out the form, right? The supervisors are protecting the other people. I'll fill it out for you. Plaintiffs were informed that the aggregated information is going to be forwarded to upper management. They're going to assemble the surveys and then we'll decide who to fire. Plaintiffs, the FBI babies, assert that the purpose for this list is to identify agents who should be terminated or to suffer other adverse employment action. And they reasonably fear that all parts of this list might be published by allies of President Trump, thus placing themselves and their families in immediate danger of retribution by the now pardoned and at-large J6 convicted felons. Oh my gosh. Wow, the FBI, they are such babies. They're like, we're going to get attacked by the J6ers at our homes. Oh my gosh. So not only did they fake for most of the J6ers, right? There was some violence that we saw on video. And you might even say that was self-defense because they got shot in the face by cops on the upper balcony, shooting them and blowing their cheeks apart and doing other things. But we'll leave that argument for another day. But most of the J6 prosecutions that we saw and covered were trespass cases, okay? Just like you would get at a bar in Old Town. They just did it in a congressional building and they turned it into a giant, stupid charade. So the FBI is so scared. They're like, oh my gosh, these roving bands of Lectern Guy and Jacob Chansley are going to come get the FBI agents. They must be petrified. And I don't endorse that at all. Nobody's saying that that's going to happen. This is all happening in their little made up brains because they're nuts. This is why they lost the election. And this is why Trump pardoned all of the J6ers. Because this is their fantasy that they're living in. It's on display. They're going to come kill us. They didn't kill anybody on January 6th, lunatics. You guys shot and killed a woman. And theoretically, maybe allegedly beat another woman to death. And other people died there. But this is a bizarro land. But they put it in their motion, and it just shows you how pathetic they are. It's really sad. Defendants' gathering and the retention and the disclosure of their activities related to the acts of Trump is a violation of their rights under the First Amendment. Like free association? What are they talking about? It is, we'll read it. It is a violation of their Fifth Amendment substantive and due process rights, such that the court has the authority to enjoin serious harm that is likely to cause. And by the way, right, this is happening in D.C., which we know these judges are nuts and as corrupt as anybody in this country. And they believe this too. They're like, oh my gosh, they are running free. They tried to ban the J6ers from the Capitol and lost that one. Now, moreover, the publication or dissemination of the information in these surveys would be a violation of their privacy rights. And they would face plaintiffs in risk of serious harm. Give me a break. They'd have to demonstrate that. Show us. Here, plaintiff seeks to enjoin the publication of these surveys because they don't want you to know what they've done. They want to hide in the gutter like cowards. You did this. Stand behind it. Plaintiffs are employees of the FBI, babies, who worked on January 6th in the Mar-a-Lago cases, who've been informed they're probably going to be fired in the near future. Yep. They intend to represent a class, they even admitted in this lawsuit, this class action, 6,000 current or former FBI agents. It's more than even CNN was suspecting. 6,000, okay, FBI agents and employees who participated in some manner in the investigation into the abuses of power by Trump or those acting at his behest. They say the defendant is the current acting AG. We know who the FBI is. And here are the facts as they sue Trump. The FBI investigates a variety of crimes, including cyber terrorism crimes, blah, blah, blah. They collect and analyze data. They provide services like fingerprints. They protect the United States, blah, blah, blah. They are part of the DOJ. FBI agents are chosen through a highly selective process, maybe historically, but we've seen what they look like and how they sound and how they operate today. FBI agents go through more than 4 months of intensive training, great, before beginning their duties. They attend numerous training sessions throughout their careers. Like, remember when you used to be a kid, or even like, I don't know, 20 years ago, you'd watch these like FBI shows, you're like, man, it's so like, man, FBI, they're cool. CIA, man, they're cool. Like, look how cool they are. You see these FBI agents now, they show up to your door. They're like 40, 50 pounds overweight. You know, like, what are you doing? And in addition to that, there are 6,000 of them just mucking up the justice system, you know, kicking doors in for J6ers. It's like one of the most embarrassing things you've ever seen. Then you learn stuff like, right, 4 months of intensive training. Wow, amazing. Many FBI agents are multilingual. That's like a semester, okay? Great job. Like a semester you did. Routinely interface with intelligence agencies from allied nations. The training agents that they receive is comprehensive, and sometimes it's extremely expensive for them to go through this. On information and belief, they assert that each agent of FBI receives more than $3 million worth of training in a 20-year career. Way too much. Agents also develop specific expertise. Blah, 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 we're amazing. They often face threats to their personal safety when they go undercover. And more. They're tasked by their chain of command. They do video evidence, and here's what they say happened. On January 6th, there was a protest. Hundreds of rioters attacked. 4 years later, they worked hard to bring justice to the persons who had engaged in illegal activity. And they prosecuted 1,500 people. So 6,000 of them worked for 4 years, and they prosecuted 1,500 people. They spent probably hundreds of millions of dollars of this budget went to this. I can't wait to see what those numbers are. Or because Jack Smith, with his dinky little team, spent $100 million. What does it cost for 6,000 people for 4 years? Any idea? $1 billion going after Trump. Okay, it's not even about. I mean, the J6ers were just really a leverage point to smear MAGA and Trump, right? Really to smear America, people who care about constitutional law, about free and fair elections and more. A recurring theme in the trials is that they appeared at the Capitol. It's undisputed that Trump knew about the violence, and for hours he did nothing. Did Liz Cheney write this? Plaintiffs assert that the ultimate goal was to block the peaceful transfer of power. Okay, so like, in other words, these FBI agents who have lost their rigged prosecutions. Okay, they raided Trump's residence. They indicted him on the J6 case. They shared all their evidence with Bragg and Fannie and colluded to make this happen. They lost. Trump won. He's the president. He's sitting in the Oval Office, and these demented, like they've got TDS or something in their brains. They're still saying this, like they're still with this blocking the peaceful transfer of power crap. No one believes you. You just lost the election. Give it up. As a result, Jack Smith, who was illegal, was appointed. And then he was able to get an indictment. Then Trump, when he was running, he said, you guys are going to get paid. You're going to have payback for this. And we're going to release the political hostages. Guess what? He said it many times, often, and the American people agreed. That's why we elected him. So then Trump was reelected. Shortly after his inauguration, the DOJ fired everybody who prosecuted the J6 cases. Get out. These terminations were directed by Trump, President Trump. This is very rude. He's the president. Get it right. They were politically motivated and unlawful. Wrong. We'll see. We'll see what your argument is. Your legal link. You keep saying this. We don't know if you know what it means. Were precisely the kind of retributions promised by Trump. So then they learned, the FBI agents, still whining about all this. Like, look, you attacked your political opponent. He's attacking you back. Man up. Don't go crying about this. You came at the king. You missed. He is taking you out now. Act like a man, okay, for crying out loud. These baby FBI agents. Now there's going to be a similar, and they did this too. They sat around as they purged the suspendables for COVID, for religious beliefs, threw them out for reasons unrelated to their performance as federal agents. This is directly related to their performance as federal agents. And now there's a purge. Grow a pair. Act manly, for crying out loud. Sheesh. Have some honor. On or about February 2nd, during a teleconference with many agents and several managers, some of the FBI agents were informed that they're going to have to fill out a survey. They melt down. As can be seen in Exhibit 1, which we'll show, the information supplied would be retrievable by employee name and email, and other identifying information like their employee number. Like, oh crap, we're going to go on a list. They were making lists for 4 years. They had 6,000 people making lists for 4 years. Like, oh no, we're going to be on a list. During this teleconference, the FBI whiners were informed that the order to fill out the survey was a lawful order. It came across from the Office of the General Counsel. Do we have to fill this out? Yeah, Fill it out. FBI babies assert that the specific purpose of this survey is to identify agents and other personnel to be terminated. Yeah, that's probably true. Fill it out. Plaintiffs have been informed that some of their personal information has already been posted by the J6 convicted felons who were pardoned, endorsed by the American people, so they should note that. And by the way, there were many people who are not convicted felons, and so this is a disgusting slander and smear against the J6 community. Just because you're a J6er doesn't mean that you were convicted in any way, shape, or form unless you were convicted at trial, a jury found you guilty, or unless you took a plea deal and you agreed to plead guilty. But there are many other J6ers who hadn't had a trial and who did not take a plea deal, like Free State Will on X, and beat the DOJ without being convicted at all. So it's a smear, right? They're trying to bucket everybody into that. And by the way, their felony convictions have been pardoned. All right. So you can say whatever you want, but the American people believed and agreed that Trump and his promise of pardons was legitimate, and we got rid of your crap conviction. We don't care about it at all. Also saying it's been posted on dark websites and are particularly concerned about further publication of their personal information. And I'm not in favor of doxing anybody, but I do think that their names would be appropriate to know. I mean, they worked for the government. They were federal agents who were prosecuting people. We want individuals to be exposed. I mean, there were sedition hunters like on Twitter and X and all of these things, right? Who's this name? Who's this name? So everybody can have exposure and sunlight. And isn't that what they were so excited about? I mean, they have other people they say broke the law. They put them on most wanted lists and other things like that. So I think it's appropriate for the American people just to know who we employed that may have been violating their oath of office so that we don't employ them again in other locations, so that other states don't employ people who were reprimanded and fired for breaking the law, undermining the office, and so on from the FBI. You just want to make sure you know who they are. They say the very act, the babies from the FBI, you can't compile lists of who worked on what. They say that's retaliatory in nature, and that's going to intimidate us and other FBI personnel and discourage them from reporting on any future malfeasance by Trump and his agents. You're scared that you're going to be intimidated because your name's going to be on a list? I thought you didn't break the law. It's been widely reported that Elon Musk and persons working with him are trying to access government databases without regard to security and without a legitimate business purpose. We don't care what you think is legitimate. All right. The FBI agents fear that the information that's being compiled against them will be accessed by people who shouldn't have it. And they say that even if they're not targeted for termination, they may face demotion, denial of job opportunities, denial of promotions in the future. Yeah, you're definitely, yes, that's all true. You hopefully are terminated, and then your job opportunities will be gone and your promotions will be gone, at least in the federal government for the foreseeable future. So they're starting a class action. They say they're going to go through, they're going to say that if you're part of this class, you certify it as a class. And let's take a look at what they're asking. So you can be a part of the class if you're going to be harmed, if your rights would be violated, and more. And the litigation costs are going to be advanced. Violation of the Constitution and their First Amendment rights. Let's see. They say government employees are protected by the First Amendment from discrimination or retaliation based on their political beliefs or affiliation, right? So it's like a free association argument. On February 2nd, they were asked to self-report their activities, or were told their managers would do this. They were informed that a list of all of these things would be forwarded to Trump's administration. Very rude. President Trump's administration. On or about January 31st, the DOJ fired everybody who prosecuted the J6 and Mar-a-Lago cases because they prosecuted their boss. And they say the baby FBI reasonably believe that this information will target them. Trump has already talked about this. And whatever the Trump administration believes about their political affiliation, it also believes that if you were involved in an investigation, you are insufficiently politically affiliated with Trump to retain their employment. And that's not, I mean, that may be true, but that is not the basis for this, right? You can't have a system where the employees are prosecuting the boss. Like, that just does not compute. You can't have somebody who's doing that. It'd be like, pick your business no matter where you're at. If your subordinate employee tried to take you out and put you in jail and wreck your business and lock you up, they can't work for you anymore. There's a conflict of interest there. So anybody who worked on that case, right, tried to imprison him. There's a clear conflict of interest. And there's also good reason to say that they violated their duty in the execution of their investigations and in the performance and the execution of all of this, essentially, right? They're making up the charges. They say, plaintiffs assert that there is no other legitimate agency purpose for this list to be created. I just articulated several of them. Plaintiffs assert that there's a risk that other people can get their hands on this list. It would be nice to know, you know, just like we can see who gets government money in USAID, like where that money goes. It'd be nice to know who these corrupt FBI agents were and employees. Should this information fall into the wrong hands, they could suffer pecuniary losses like loss of income and damage to their reputation. That's the point. Yeah, that's the point. You should not be hired or work for other people who want reputable people working for them. And they also say, if these FBI agents and their names, if they fall into the wrong hand, our national security would be compromised. So they say they've worked on a variety of threats and they may want to have them eliminated if their name goes public, like they're Ethan Hunt or something. Plaintiff therefore respectfully seek to stop them. Here's what they're asking for: enjoin and stop the Trump DOJ from compiling a list of the FBI agents that would connect them to Mar-a-Lago. We can associate freely. We have free association rights, so they can't make us fill out a form. Okay, you guys already basically did fill out the form. The list is already compiled, by the way, so all right. And they also are saying there's due process rights. The Fifth Amendment of the Constitution stops against reputational harm. We have a clear interest, FBI baby say, in our reputations. Here, the potential publication that they worked on J6 and the Mar-a-Lago cases is going to hurt their reputations, the FBI, and their prospects for continued or future employment. So Trump can't fire or manage the FBI because exposure of their corruption might hurt their reputation. That's what they're claiming. You see it right there. Here, defendant has already harmed their reputation by stating that they're dishonest and corrupt. Not only would the publication of their names hurt them further, but it would burden their ability to get future employment as well. Yeah, that's the point. The survey that they're being asked to submit doesn't allow them to defend their honor or reputation, and it doesn't give them an opportunity to challenge the perception of their actions. They can file a lawsuit as they're doing now. The FBI doesn't have to give them an opportunity to be heard in their survey of their employees. As such, they violate the rules, and so you should stop them from doing this. So the counts continue. They're demanding a jury trial. That's the class action lawsuit. Let me share with you the other one that got filed. So more FBI babies suing the Trump DOJ. You see John Does and Jane Does all throwing their names on there, but remaining anonymous so that you don't know who they are because they're very sensitive FBI agents. They say, all right, now we're suing the DOJ because we have been long-time special agents and we've worked there for a long time. And this has been unlawful retaliation. Hopefully this is better than a First Amendment and Fifth Amendment claim. The court has subject matter jurisdiction, and this is being brought by the FBI AA, okay, leading the charge. FBI Agents Association representing those Jane Does and John Does. They say the FBI AA has 14,000 members. FBI is currently employing 13,800 special agents. Approximately 12,000 of the 13,800 are members of that organization. So these whiny baby FBI plaintiffs are special agents and they're forensic examiners, and there's a forensic chemist and intelligence analyst, and they're all currently employed there with the FBI. Trump, of course, is running the DOJ. So what they're going to do here is they're going to enjoy themselves in this factual delineation. They say, we're incredible people, you know. We take some of the most critical stakes law enforcement investigations in our country. Well, you're going to start now, but you didn't for the last 4 years. Okay, 6,000 of you people were going after J6ers. They work at the direction of senior leaders, and the mission is diverse. We've got broad investigative authorities. We do all sorts of things and stop bad people. The targets of this investigation often have many tools. Okay, so FBI agents use a bunch of stuff. Now, on January 6th, we know what happened. Following November 3rd, Trump got elected. January 6th, Congress, blah, blah, blah. Trump gave a speech. Events of January 6th happen. Then the FBI is going to justify what they've done. Investigative efforts were centralized out of D.C. This meant that FBI agents swore out arrest warrants and affidavits in front of D.C. judges, okay? They didn't go get warrants in Texas to go raid someone's Texas residence. They got it in D.C. and then executed the raid in Texas. Upon receipt and review, they approved search warrant applications for arrests that took place. In some instances, individuals were arrested. Many of the perpetrators fled Washington, D.C. immediately after the carnage. They're such pathetic losers and babies. After the carnage, what are you talking about? You shot and killed Ashley Babbitt. Fled, they went home. They didn't flee anywhere. See, this is what we talk about. This is often a great example of emotive conjugation, right? How you can change words to change the meaning of anything. January 6th rioters fled. What do you mean? They returned. Okay, they went home. They were there for the inauguration. They don't live there. So you can change the entire connotation with one word. Because of this, the FBI, but it's dishonest. Because of this, the FBI had to coordinate efforts across the country in order to amass evidence of what? Trespass? They got search warrants also in the district where the evidence was to be located. Again, the FBI applied for warrants via sworn affidavits and neutral detached judges, whatever. In the context of search warrants for physical warrants, the lawful warrants were issued by multiple judges outside of D.C. And just because a neutral judge granted a warrant, again, warrants are procedural, and we think that they give us a lot of protection, but in practical application, they just rubber stamp them. Then Merrick Garland illegally appointed Jack Smith, and then they prosecuted 1,500 people. All told, they charged nearly 1,600 people with crimes. Trump called them hostages, as they were. Trump called the FBI thugs, tyrants, and part of the Gestapo, because they are. He's also promulgated conspiracy theories, says Trump, and said this woman, Alyssa Myman. Then there were actions on January 20th, 2025. Trump came out and was inaugurated, put an end to this historic garbage that has occurred to our country. He said the weaponization of the DOJ will end. It was a beautiful day. The best. One of Trump's first actions was pardoning all the J6ers and commuting some others. Since they received their pardons, others on X and other locations have tagged FBI agents who worked on the investigation and the prosecutions of those rioters, okay, calling out the FBI agents by name for what they've done. For example, on February 1st, a leader of the violent Proud Boys gang, give me a break, posted the following on social media. This is Enrique Tarrio. And the Proud Boys were not violent. The Proud Boys, as we saw, and many people reported that was part of a cover-up, were helping the cops clear the building. They didn't share that side of things with you, though. They buried all of that and prevented that from coming in at trial. And by the way, Enrique Tarrio was not even there on January 6th. He was outside of the entire city. And he's been released, thank God. Says, I'm calling for the firing and the arrest of Nicole Miller of the FBI for perjury, broke the law, tampering of evidence, and violating and obstructing an official proceeding, right? Throughout the trial of Ethan Nordine, Joe Biggs, Zachary Real, and Dominic Pizzola that we covered here at length, which was a wild scene, Enrique Tarrio sat there too. He's making the claim that FBI agent Nicole lied on the stand, tampered with evidence, eavesdropped on attorney-client privilege calls. She hid her messages that showed personal bias against us during her illegal investigation. She should be brought to justice, must be brought to justice, and made to answer for her crimes. She must be held accountable for her crimes. To all J6ers, I encourage you to tell your stories and call these people out. They tried to take our lives for political gains, and now they should be exposed. They say Enrique Tarrio was sentenced to 22 years. He's been recently released, openly expressed his intent to seek retaliation against the FBI. It's retaliation in such that she broke the law. And he's making allegations that he's a victim of a crime. It's not retaliation. He's saying, I was a victim of a crime by the FBI. We know the FBI commits crimes. In his ex-bio line, he says, United States Secretary of Retaliation. It's a nice name. Now, Mr. Tarrio, they write, has also threatened that people need to feel the heat. They need to be prosecuted. Success will be our retribution, right? And that's what he said after the pardon came down. Now, as of this date, they say all these J6ers are posting on X, causing them to wet their little pantalones. Say multiple hashtags are also trending that allow J6 convicts, not all of them, turned pardoned, to link each other, promoting insurrection against law enforcement agents. And by the way, just to be ultra clear about this, we disavow all violence against all people at all times, unless, it's self-defense. You got to save somebody who's killing your mom or something, right? But we disavow it. And the J6ers, as a general principle, as far as I know, disavow it. They were the ones who were shot in the face and entrapped and then prosecuted for it. So, for example, this person reposted another person, which depicts an interview of this interview. He said, this FBIer should have filled out this survey. Hopefully these FBI guys who sat down with Chris Quaglin says, 4 freaking years, okay? They moved me to 8 prisons. I lost 60 pounds because they didn't feed me gluten-free food. He needs it. They tortured me. They asked me to cooperate for 3 years. They said I'd go home instantly. Just work with us. You'll go home instantly. All I had to do was sell my soul. I refused. He's allowed to say that. It's not illegal. These people, he's saying, tortured him and violated his constitutional rights. And Steve is saying, hopefully this person who did all of that to him filled out the form and was honest about it, so there can be proper accountability. Proper accountability for the people who did that. If they didn't break the law, if they acted honorably with integrity, there'll be no consequences for that. But if they did what we suspect they did, and in many cases know they did, there will be repercussions because they broke the law. For context, they say Quaglin was sentenced to 12 years, like we care. No one cares, by the DOJ. Then he got pardoned. The DOJ described that on J6, Quaglin, dressed in a hard-sided helmet, carried a backpack. Again, thank you for these allegations and your criminal convictions that were brought by a corrupt process lacking any due process. They say, according to the DOJ, which is corrupt, and they lost, and everybody got fired for being corrupt, Quaglin showed no remorse. Violent threats against FBI agents who have carried out lawful orders has been a consistent problem for years. They say, for example, in 2022, agents who carried out the search of Trump's home were doxxed on Trump's social media network. And then there was a siege of an FBI office that resulted in that person's death. Around the same time, a Pennsylvania man was charged and threatened with trying to threaten to eliminate FBI agents. And so they get other threats. Okay, they go back, they cherry pick some threats. They're like, see, we're going to get killed. Another pardoned J6 felon threatened that his next actions would be to go find people, right? So they're digging out some posts. So yeah, be careful with some of those posts, right? You want to be careful about it. It says, in addition to the above examples, they're currently serving senior executives. White House advisor is bringing a barrage of negative attention, so they're suing. Now, I say be careful because, right, there's a fine line between between a true threat, right, and the Brandenburg principle, and imminent lawless action is generally the standard there, but threatening and intimidating, there are other statutes out there, and I know that the DOJ is currently being managed by more sane and reasonable people, but you still got Tish and Fanny's out there and a bunch of stuff. So anyways, in the weeks since, the administration has summarily fired a bunch of people. Good riddance to them. That memo ordered 8 FBI folks to resign, saying their participation in the case was due to a weaponization of the government. And so They say acting department people are now going to take steps towards firing a bunch of people who are involved in this. And upon belief, as many as 6,000 FBI employees may currently be on the chopping block. That number could reach 6,000. Check this out. Or a sixth of the Bureau's 38,000 employees. 1/6 of the FBI was involved in the J6 cases for 4 years. It's disgusting. For 1,500 cases that were mostly misdemeanor trespass offenses. So you could cut that number in half. It's probably like 700. Now, of those, how many were like violent? Less than that. And then what was actually violent? Because remember, they were saying flying water bottles was the cause of violence. Now, in addition to being unlawful, a mass unlawful firing of 6,000 FBI employees would be catastrophic to national security. I don't think so at all. They were working on 1,500 cases. They weren't doing anything. On Sunday, the FBI, acting now, ordered other FBI agents to answer a questionnaire related to the J6 events. We've read through these questions before, but they say, strangely, the selection of the FBI agents who received this information included many who did little to no work on J6 investigations, while others who did work for J6 did not receive a survey request. They're like, well, we already know. We already got their names. We don't need them to fill out the form. We know they're getting fired. On information and belief, they're currently in a state of transitional disorganization, the DOJ, and has been unable to confirm the accuracy of the basic informational data of its members. Probably true. Yeah, I mean, it's probably all obfuscated. Yes, they're all probably like deleting their J6 folder and emptying the trash can out, you know, like delete, empty the recycle bin, empty the recycle bin, empty the recycle bin. On information, they say that the Trump people intend to publicly disseminate the names of the employees who responded to the survey, and I hope they do. They're public employees. They prosecuted people in open criminal prosecutions. It's part of the public record. So let's see who you are. You outed all the J6ers, posted their photos all over the place, made it your mission to take them out. You said that truth and accountability was above all. So great. We'll see what you did. They say that they have disseminated or will imminently disseminate the records about their involvement in these sensitive investigations. And they haven't made any efforts, they say the Trump people, to ensure that these are accurate released records and that there will be irreparable harm if these records are released. The bell cannot be unrung. Once their personal information is released, it will be eternally available on social media. You're damn right it is. Now, plaintiff hereby alleges that they're an agency and they do work at the FBI and there are records keeping. Okay, so it's not a First Amendment claim like that other one was, which was pathetic. No agency shall disclose any record which is contained in a system. There's no exception. There's disclosure prohibitions. So if you name them, federal records keeping laws says they can't disclose the names. We'll see. It says defendants' violation will harm them and risk their safety to their family members. And here it is, right? It's really their professional reputations. They want to go get jobs at private contracting companies or state agencies or somewhere else. And once we know who they are and what they're going to be blacklisted, as they should, because they're dishonest and lacking in integrity. As a default, maybe there's some who are not, but as a default, that's how it is. They all went along to get along, all just following orders. Otherwise, they say it's under the APA, Administrative Procedures Act, saying the actions of Trump are contrary to their right of privacy and their right to qualified immunity as law enforcement officers acting pursuant to lawful orders. We don't think that they were lawful. And they're in flagrant violation of well-established procedures. So in other words, maybe we broke the law, but we have immunity to break the law. And we have a right to privacy to break the law and to prosecute the J6 cases when there's no real prosecutorial justification for doing it, vis-a-vis all the other things the FBI set out to do, right? They were targeted and weaponized. So here, the provisions of 28 U.S. Code and others give you a basis. They say Trump's actions are intimidating and threatening behavior. And the FBI babies just can't take it. They say they don't have discretion to redefine the truth of January 6th. What? Nor do they have any discretion to recast the lawful actions taken by the FBI as illegal. Yes, they do. And they're doing it, actually, right now. That was your discretion. Just because you charged a crime doesn't make it lawful and legal. And the way you conducted the case was unlawful and illegal, is the allegation. So they have no discretion when it comes to ensuring the safety of the American people from extremist violence, let alone the safety of their own employees. This is like ranty baby. These are pathetic motions, lawsuits. The First Amendment protects employees, and there's going to be reputational risk. And these are also due process violations for reputational harm. They're going to, if you release their names, it's going to violate their due process rights. The Fifth Amendment protects against both reputation plus and stigma plus harm caused by government actors. Here, this is going to harm their interest and their names. And they're going to be stigmatized for, being corrupt agents. Saying it also is going to violate their privacy interests and you can't reveal who they are. So the baby FBI, drafted here by Mark S. Zaid, representing the baby FBI agents. And look who it is. Norm Eisen. Oh, there it is. State Democracy Defenders Fund, suing on behalf of their FBI. It was their FBI, right? They were the ones who were organizing and coordinating, in my opinion, the prosecutions against President Trump. There it is. Incredible. So they say, stop them from disseminating the personal information of the FBI agents who prosecuted public cases in a court of law, who don't want to be identified because they know what they did. Issue writs of mandamus as appropriate. Don't let that list come out, and award other relief as the court deems appropriate. And just to be clear on this, these might go places. Like, we're still in Washington, D.C., where these claims are being filed, right? These judges are chomping at the bit for an opportunity to stop Trump in some way, shape, or form. These are the same judges that tried to throw the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys and other people who had their sentences commuted from letting them return back into the city. So they'll be ready to, oh yeah, you can't release those names, Trump. This is a grave national security risk. And there's a bunch of felons now out there running around, and they could be in danger. We know it's going to happen. Just get ready for it. We'll see where this goes. But here was the actual form. Says, here's the memo response. Are you submitting this form on yourself, on behalf of yourself or for an employee? What's your current title, special agent? Are you an employee? Are you currently an ASAC or SSIA? And the rest of the list, we've seen it here. Then this is what the form looks like, right? Actually a screenshot and a printout. And what was the date of your employee's last activity relating to the event? And there was that other form somewhere too. I think in form, yeah, so you can have some drop downs there. This is other, the responses in this survey are provided. All right, so anyways, that's the form. FBI suing Trump because they don't want you to know what they did. They're so cowardly. They spent 4 years high-fiving each other, going out in front of the media, screaming about what an insurrectionary environment they prevented and how much of saviors they are. And now when we're like, what'd you do on the January 6 cases? They don't want to talk about it. And now they're suing to stop it. And they've got guys like Norm Eisen who are helping them do it. Shows you everything you need to know about who was leading the FBI and why they all needed to go. Now, this is Garret O'Boyle, who was suspended and left the FBI as a result, has waged a war of information to expose some of what they're doing, shared this internal message with us. Says, acting FBI Director Brian Driscoll said that each of these employees represents the highest caliber of public service, again, enjoying themselves, and this country is safer because of their work. He says he should be fired for lack of candor and posted the message that he shared. This is from the Office of the Director, the acting FBI leader. Says that, this past Friday, 8 of our senior leaders have retired. These are the people who are now gone. Tim Dunham, gone. 22 years of dedicated service. Good riddance, 22 years of corruption in the toilet. Bye. Bobby Wells, after more than 21 years, he's gone too, right? Bye, 21 years. And they always say this, like dedicated service. Okay, my opinion, the FBI is a corrupt organization. And so if you're working there for 2 decades, you're contributing to the corruption of the FBI unless you're doing something about it to stand out and stop otherwise. If you're retiring right now because Trump is coming in and holding things accountable, in my opinion, that is an indicator that you are part of the problem and you're not part of the solution. So Bobby Wells, Mike Nordwall, Jackie McGuire, and Ryan Young. 22 years, 24 years, 23 years, blah, 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 28 years, bringing his service to the American people, 20 years. That's great. Look, I appreciate a career. I appreciate investing a long time into something. But decades in the FBI and then you're cutting and running and retiring because Trump's coming in and cleaning house is pathetic. Ryan Young, Arlene Gaylord, we got Dave Sundberg, and Jeffrey Veltri, special agent in charge out of Miami. 22 years of experience. Get out. We don't want all your experience, okay? Take it and throw it in the trash. Each of these employees represent the highest caliber of public service. Well, then why are they running away like little babies and joining up to sue the DOJ? We thank them for their unwavering commitment. We are in the process of selecting actings to ensure a smooth transition, and we'll be in touch later. I hope this guy gets fired soon because he posted this little stupid video too. Acting FBI Director Brian Driscoll provides an update on the vital work being carried out by the dedicated men and women of the FBI, both across the U.S. and globally, to protect the safety of the American people. Now, here's what he said.
I'm Brian Driscoll, and it's my honor to be representing the men and women of the FBI as acting director. I want to take a few minutes to share with you some of the important work these men and women have been doing across the country and around the world every day to keep the American people safe.
Yeah, it's a puff piece.
I'll start with our top 10 list. The 10 most wanted fugitives list has been helping the FBI apprehend dangerous criminals for 75 years. In that time, we've located or arrested nearly 500 fugitives on the list, including 2 just the past week. Donald Eugene Fields II, who was arrested in Florida on charges of child sex trafficking and child rape, and Arnaldo Jimenez, who was taken into custody in Mexico on murder charges. I'm grateful to both of these case teams for their work and to our partners for their support in bringing these violent criminals to justice. You've heard the FBI always gets its man, but our work is never done. Today, we're announcing the addition of Fausto Isidro Mesa Flores to the FBI's 10 most wanted fugitives list. Known as El Chapo Isidro, he's accused of spending the last 20 years flooding the United States with fentanyl, cocaine, heroin, and other deadly drugs.
Yeah, so it's nice you put him on the list now, and you've switched from J6ers. Let's see how he wraps this up. Great.
All of that work is critically important to our partners and to the American people. But it doesn't even scratch the surface of the work the men and women in the FBI are doing every single day across the country and around the world to keep people safe. We will never take our eyes off of our mission, protecting the American people and upholding the Constitution. Because at the Bureau, we're focused on the work. The people we do the work with, our partners, and the people we do the work for, the American people. Thank you.
Oh, gosh. All right, so that's acting director Brian Driscoll. Feels like a little puff piece that he's coming out, you know, hey, we're actually doing good work out there. Didn't mention J6. We skipped a little bit as far as I know. Probably didn't mention that. And share his pride in rounding up the grannies who were touring the Capitol. But that's the FBI. We saw a prior letter from him where he admitted that he was a part of the people who prosecuted the J6 cases, was involved in it, says, I have to report you guys, kind of reports, but I'm on that list. So we'll see how long he's around. As soon as Kash Patel is finally confirmed, afuera. We'll be looking forward to that. All right, so now, FBI is in terror meltdown mode, but we've also got other winning happening in other domains. Elon celebrating the death of USAID, says, we spent the weekend feeding this organization into the wood chipper, proverbial. We could have gone to some great parties, but we did that instead. So we're eliminating this institution, yanking it out root and stem so that it cannot come back and the money is gone. Here's what Congresswoman Sarah Jacobs says. And this is illegal. Neither Trump nor Elon has the authority to eliminate USAID. Only an act of Congress can do that. Lawsuits are already underway, and we're doing oversight to try to stop this. And you have not seen the Democrats as freaked out as they are now that this grift is going away, and they're suing to keep it going because they like grift. That's where they make all their money. But there's a lot that is being exposed on this. Yesterday, we referenced Data Republican, who's doing an amazing job crunching the data, and I can't even believe it. But she says 48 vCPUs are throttling all and curating the USAID grant network for every single EIN. It's going to take 12 hours. That's fine, though, because we're going to make it all assemble. Blame the federal government for creating computational complexity. But here's a teaser. This is what the Network for Defending Democracy Together Institute looks like. The graph represents grants from various USAID-affiliated NGOs flowing to Crystal's nonprofit, Bill Crystal's nonprofit. Look, all these are different identifying numbers, perhaps EINs. This is what it looks like. This is where all the money is coming from. And they just pass it around. They're all getting rich, all protecting democracy. That's why they're so freaked out that the money is getting cut off. The Association of American Physicians and Surgeons also said that the top USAID contracts in 2024, guess who's on top? The biggest of them all, Pfizer. Number 2, Chemonics International got $6 billion. Pfizer, $4 billion. Domestic awardees, just under $1 billion. John Snow Incorporated, $578 million. So much money went out, and they are unhappy that it's going away. They're so unhappy, in fact, they're suing. Here's this lawsuit. Democrats suing to stop the shutdown of the USAID. And you may remember, if you've been with this channel for some time, all of the Alliance for Retired Americans who sue regularly, right? They need people with standing in certain locations. So they create these little groups, or at least have these groups, join in on lawsuits. We saw this back in 2020 with the Retired Association Americans, right, from Michigan, of Wisconsin, of Pennsylvania. They filed these suits along with the labor unions to stop this from going away. And let's see what's inside. So they're suing the new Department of Treasury, Scott Bessent, the secretary there, and the Bureau of Fiscal Services. Give us our money. Don't take away our USAID. They say these are plaintiffs for the Retired Americans Association, Federation of Government Employees, and the AFL-CIO. We're suing the Treasury for injunctive relief to halt the unlawful, ongoing, systematic, and continuous disclosure of personnel and financial information contained in the government records to Elon and other members of DOJ. Okay, do not let them see the finances. Okay, don't let them open that spreadsheet up. We're going to be in big trouble. Don't let us see it. Millions of individuals engage in financial transactions with the government. The government collects trillions of dollars from individuals who pay their income and loans and other things. People also get money from the federal government, Social Security, and more. Now, the job of effectuating these financial transactions belongs to the DOT, operating through the Bureau of Fiscal Service. Now, to carry out its duties, there are other people who are a party to the transaction. Names, Social Security, birth dates, all that stuff is passed through. We got it. Federal laws protect sensitive personal information against unnecessary disclosures. Now, in the first week, the Treasury Secretary, the defendant, Bessent, violated the restrictions. They say Elon and Doge, they sought access to the Bureau's records for some time, but they were rebuffed by the employee who was then in charge. They fired that dude. Within a week of being sworn in, Mr. Besant placed that civil servant on leave by and granted Doge-affiliated individuals full access to the data and computer systems. He did so without making any public announcement. So what? Who cares? Providing any legal justification or explanation for it. Who cares? He runs the Treasury. He brought them in, or undertaking the process required by law for altering the agency's disclosure policies. What? Those are your three. That's why you're mad? He didn't tell you about it. He doesn't have to tell you. He didn't give you an explanation. He doesn't owe you an explanation. And he didn't disclose it properly. So you're mad at, no, okay. So the scale of the intrusion into individuals' privacy is massive and unprecedented. No, it is not. We'd rather have a handful of highly competent, qualified people, give them permission to access these things under the power of Trump as delegated to Elon and to the Treasury, then to Elon. Multiple people involved in this. It's like bringing in anybody from the outside. You hire outside personnel. I'd rather that we know who these people are than whoever that other dude was who was in charge of security for 25 years, who approved every single thing that came across his desk. They say millions of people cannot avoid engaging in financial transactions, and so we've got their records. Besant's action granting Doge-affiliated individuals ongoing access means that retirees and others have no assurance that their information will receive protection of federal law. It's the assurance of the federal government. Nothing has changed. Because their actions are shrouded in secrecy, individuals will not even have basic information about what information they're sharing or how it's being used. They're complying with the law. The law hasn't changed. People who share information with the federal government should not be forced to share information with Musk or Doge, and federal law says they don't have to. The Privacy Act and generally the IRS make it unlawful for them to hand over records to individuals like Musk or Doge. All right. Plaintiffs filed this action to stop this violation of federal law and protect the privacy records of everybody's information. This court exercises its equitable authority, and we can do that here. They say the retired Americans have 4.4 million members, teachers, and more. It says this is another group, 800,000 federal civilians, and the SEIU is a labor union. We know who they are. They say that here, the Secretary of the Treasury is responsible for the finances of the government. They process $5 trillion in receipts, a lot of money comes in, a lot of records are kept. To engage in financial transactions, they must collect personal information, and under the Privacy Act, an agency must prepare a notice in the Federal Register when a system is revised, at least 30 days before publishing this. Among other things, they have to tell us when there are changes. So like if you're going to change something, you have to provide notice. This concerns payment records. Personal information is inside. This also concerns debt. There's home phone numbers and stuff. This record concerns individuals and other records. And the Privacy Act says that you can't disclose these things. One exception allows disclosures to officers when there's a need. Another exception is for routine use. But they also process taxes, and so there's other disclosure requirements as well. Now, Trump was inaugurated on January 20th, okay? So that's what the law says, according to them. Then he issued an executive order, and he created Doge. The executive order directs the administrator of the USDS to work with agency heads to promote interoperability. Since his inauguration, Trump has not formally identified the individual who would serve as the USDS administrator or the full list of people working at Doge. During the presidential campaign, Trump announced a billionaire Elon would lead at Doge, and he's played a central role. They've not publicly revealed whether he's been made an officer or an employee or remains a private citizen. Sometime after November 5th, Doge representatives reportedly approached officials in the department seeking access to the payment systems. Doge and their efforts to obtain continued after the inauguration. Initially, their request to access the system was rebuffed by this guy. David Lebrick, the highest ranking career official at the agency, and the individual who had been in charge of the Bureau. According to press reports, he advised DOJ during the transition period that the information contained in the systems was proprietary and should not be shared outside of the government. So then the Senate confirmed Bessent. He was sworn in. Then on information and belief, they say he and his chief of staff, called Dan Katz, had a meeting with Mr. Lebrick later that week, and he was placed on leave. That high-ranking guy, gone. Then he announced, I'm retiring, 35 years in federal service, goodbye. On information and belief then, after they got rid of that guy, Bessent gave DOJ full access to the federal payment systems. Senator Ron Wyden, Democrat, screeches about this, has reported that access has been complete. He has stated that DOJ has full access to the system, like all of it, is what this whiny Democrat says. Great. Defendants have not released the full list of DOJ-affiliated individuals who have access to these things. And Bessent has reportedly signed off on a plan to give other access to other liaisons working out of USDS. They have not publicly disclosed the members of his team or what their plan is, and there's anonymous sources saying this, that, and the other thing. Musk has also suggested that DOJ has the authority to control disbursements. In response to an allegation by Michael Flynn on X, Flynn said, cut out Lutheran Family Services, because he's like, no. We're not importing illegal aliens. Don't be ridiculous. We're Lutheran Family Services. What do? Oh, we import illegal aliens. Oh, got it. General Flynn said, cancel that. Musk said the DOJ team is rapidly shutting down these illegal payments. They say, you can't do that. Plaintiffs say this is illegal. They get money from all sorts of benefits, federal black lung benefits, and so on. Their members are supposed to get this money. They pay taxes, and the Bureau is going to collect their information. And so now Trump has to protect their personal information. You can't let everybody see who's making payments to whom. They rely on these systems to make their payments. They don't have the option of having their information looked at. And so they're making this a right to privacy case. Don't look at the records. And there's 2 lawsuits here. Don't look at the records. They're not saying, by the way, like bring back the money, saying you can't see what we've spent it on. The Privacy Act prohibits defendants from disclosing records to Musk or anybody else associated with DOJ. IRS says you can't give this information up. Defendants have implemented a system for disclosing records on their members, and they haven't gotten consent to them. They've implemented a system for disclosing this to the public as well, and a system for disclosing records. Data Republicans got a lot of them. And so you can't do that, right? We have a right to privacy. You can't give us any of this information. These are like public contracts, right? It's not like they're releasing information about my tax records. Like my forms are not on the internet, hopefully. Although it's like, okay, we all have to pay taxes. You'd be sick how much tax. You're like, geez, Rob. It's like sick, right? I would commiserate with you if I saw yours. But the point is, these are public contracts. Like, they're not talking about grandma's financial decisions. They're talking about a public disbursement of funds is what the subject of this ultimately is. They don't want you to see it. They say they haven't engaged in reasoned decision-making. They say this is arbitrary and capricious action by the government. And Elon's just like a bull in the china shop running around. So he can't do that. And also, they're acting outside of their discretionary lawful authority, which they don't spend much time on. They can't access these records. It violates their duty. And so you have to declare that a decision by Elon to access the Bureau's records is unlawful. Okay, don't give us the money back. Don't let them see the records. Stop them from accessing the records. Stop them from accessing future records. Grant an injunction to prohibit them from seeing these things and award us attorney's fees and costs. They are freaked out because their grift has been exposed. Sunlight, the best disinfectant. Elon is bringing it to us. There's another lawsuit that's being filed American Muckrakers, this guy, American Muckrakers, David Wheeler, also suing them. Not going to read this one, but he's saying there's a civil conspiracy happening because all their records are being exposed. So they're really struggling. And as you can see, they're trying to do this sneaky thing where they're trying to commingle the cuts with Medicare and Social Security. Okay, like this is a right to privacy violation for your grandparents and you and your mom, but it's not. They're not interested in those things. They're looking at the public disbursements via the USAID. Then we'll get to the IRS and we'll see what they were targeting people on, right? And we'll see what they were doing to abuse their office to go after certain people. But they want to commingle this. They want to say, oh, they're cutting Medicaid. They're cutting Social Security so they can scare our loving grandparents. But it's not true at all. Even CNN points that out.
Constitutional power grab. And it's also one part of a larger illegal and unconstitutional effort by this administration to gut the federal workforce and gut the federal government writ large. If they can get away with this with USAID, they can do it anywhere. And that means that no part of the federal government, including programs like Medicare and Social Security, will be safe from this administration. So it is illegal. And it is just the first stop on this administration's effort to undermine programs and benefits in order to line the pockets of uber wealthy donors and friends of the president.
I will say they do seem sensitive to making sure that people know those programs are not going to be touched. They've been very sensitive about that. But you hear President Trump trying to rationalize what's happening here. And he'll say things like they found $100 million for condoms for Hamas, which is not true. It's been easily refuted. There has been no money, aid money going for condoms in the Middle East. And yet he repeats it. So knowing that, I mean, what can Congress really do if Democrats control no chamber? What is the recourse here?
Nothing, bro. Nothing you can do about this. It's over. You can throw a hissy fit, but there is no amount of whining that is going to get you to be able to stop the executive branch answering its function. Congress can whine and pass legislation. They control no houses, but the courts can come in here and muck it up because that's how our system works. So Congress can whine and moan about it for as long as they want, but it's not going to happen. So unless they get one of the houses or both houses back. So they're going to continue to scramble, or they peel off Republicans to join in on their cause, which is another real possibility. So Marco Rubio is coming out. He's now in charge of this. He's delegated some of the power over USAID to other individuals. And he's enough already. Okay, quit your whining. This is for America.
You're now the head of USAID. The head of DOJ, Elon Musk, called USAID a criminal organization and added that it is time for it to die. Do you agree with that?
They have basically evolved into an agency that believes that they're not even a U.S. government agency, that they are a global charity, that they take the taxpayer money and they spend it as a global charity, irrespective of whether it is in the national interest or not in the national interest. One of the most common complaints you will get if you go to embassies around the world from State Department officials and ambassadors and the like is USAID is not only not cooperative, they undermine the work that we're doing in that country. They are supporting programs that upset the host government for whom we're trying to work with on a broader scale and so forth. So they're completely unresponsive. They just don't consider that they work for the U.S. They just think they're a global entity and that their master is the globe and not the United States. And that's not what the statute says, and that's not sustainable.
Can it be reformed or does it need to die?
Well, that was always the goal, was to reform it. But now we have rank insubordination. Now we have basically an active effort where their basic attitude is we don't work for anyone. We work for ourselves. Yep. No agency of government can tell us what to do. So the president made me the acting administrator. I've delegated that power to someone who's there full time, and we're going to go through the same process at USAID as we're going through now at the State Department. I think there are this is not about getting rid of foreign aid. There are things that we do through USAID that we should continue to do that makes sense. And we'll have to decide, is that better through the State Department or is that better through something, a reformed USAID? That's the process we're working through. There are things that are happening at USAID that we should not be involved in funding or that we have a lot of questions about, but they're completely uncooperative. So we had no choice but to take dramatic steps to bring this thing under control.
And that has to happen across the board. FBI needs that. They're going to get a dose of that. CIA needs that. They're going to get a dose of that. HHS needs that. They're going to get a dose of that. And the liberals are going to melt down everywhere you look. Here is this woman, Senator Tammy Duckworth, who is very deeply disappointed in Rubio.
You voted to confirm Marco Rubio as Secretary of State. He's now, I guess, acting USAID administrator. What do you think that's going to look like under his leadership? I mean, why do you think USAID matters?
Well, let me answer that second question first, and I'm going to do it by quoting Ronald Reagan. And he said, and I quote, "The ultimate importance to the United States of our security and development assistance programs cannot be exaggerated." That's Ronald Reagan, who talked about
Great, that was 30 years ago.
Was about the military, but
ago.
also about the aid programs that are critically important to America's national security. I am deeply disappointed in Marco Rubio. We met with him prior to the vote and asked him about the freeze that would come to USAID programs. And he reassured the members of the committee that, that it would be turned back on and that babies would not die. Medicine would not be
what are you talking
prevented
about?
From being distributed. But that's exactly what's happening right now. We're going to have a humanitarian crisis on our hands as a result of this funding cut.
Yeah, babies are dying, grandmas falling out of airplanes, all sorts of things are happening that are terrible. And what I suspect is happening, okay, when you see all these mind maps and these flow charts and all these things pointing up, all you got to do is, if you're a constituent of her, just go and apply for an aid or a grant or something from USAID, right? She's a senator, she calls, she's on the foreign whatever committee, just gives a call. Hey, I think this is a great program. They're going to do great work over here. It's an important issue to me. Maybe you can talk to them about a grant, right? Then they all get, all of their biggest people, grants and money. It's like welfare for Democrats. It's all coming to a screeching halt, and that's why she's so upset about it. And shout out to Rubio for just looking her right in the eye and saying, don't worry about it. We're going to continue your little scam, and then eliminating it the first day. Good for him.
Why do you think it is that Elon Musk has become so fixated on USAID, saying it's a left-wing psyop, that it's a criminal?
We're just getting started there, brother. We're going to have a lot more where that came from. After USAID, we got IRS, we got Department of Education, we got FBI, we got CIA, we got DOJ, we got a lot of them.
Organization.
I think this is just a money grab. This is all about them trying to find ways to fund their billionaire tax cuts.
What?
And this is one way that they can do it. This is really a power play. I can't get in. I don't understand the head of Elon Musk. I don't want to try to get into his head. I mean, this is the guy who made two How Hitler Salutes recently. And it's terrifying to me that the president of the United States has given this guy.
Are you going to let her get away with that, Anderson? Even the ADL said he wasn't Naziing anybody. She's nuts.
Access to your data, my data, all Americans' financial data. This is not someone that I think should be trusted with access to the U.S. Treasury data files or to the State Department.
Yeah, hilarious. Democrats are now anti-big tech and anti-conglomerations of data. Yeah, right. All right, so here is another one, Ilhan, who's going to be having a rough time now that her funds to her Somalian people are cut off.
USAID move, and they don't want to help the Ilhan Omars or their families. They want to help their own families.
American families.
Can you explain to those people why you think they should be interested in helping families like yours?
Yeah, lay it on us.
Well, I mean, I think what is really important for the American people to understand is that this money really amounts to less than 1%.
Remember that stupid talking point that that other woman brought up yesterday? So you're not going to miss it then.
What our budget is as a country. It is money that goes to the most vulnerable around the world.
Yeah.
It is already appropriated and it can't be reappropriated. And so what we are seeing right now is Elon Musk, a billionaire.
You appropriated money that Trump can spend in furtherance of the agency policy that was mandated by Congress. So he's not going to spend the money. He's just not going to spend it right now the way you want him to do it. And when they say that phrase, what they're trying to imply, okay, I heard the senator of Vermont talk about this too. They're going to talk about this word a lot, talking about impoundment of funds. And it's this concept, Congress has the power of the purse by the Constitution. They will pass bills. The president has to execute the law. Doesn't mean that the president has to execute the law in the way that they tell him to, per se, if he thinks it's constitutional, right? He's got discretion. The Constitution gives him a lot of power to execute the laws according to the general welfare of the country And he's got his part of the Constitution that he's got to do. So when there's a conflict between the two, they look to the statute. What does the statute say the president is mandated to do in response to the will of the people via the legislature? And the court can rectify that. There's a situation like this that happened with Nixon. And that's what we're going through right now. But what we've been used to in this country for most of my whole life has been a too friendly patty cake relationship between the legislative branch and the executive branch, whereby no one challenges anything. Congress just gives them a bunch of money and the executive spends a bunch of money because it supports them. Now Trump is saying, okay, thanks for the money. I'm not, probably not eliminating USAID. We're just not going to spend the money in the way that you told me to specifically because the statute doesn't mandate that I do. And then we have questions about commingling of the branches, right? Checks and balances. Congress starts to put their grubby little fingers on the executive branch and dictate how to be the president. That's unconstitutional. They are not the president. So this is a little game. We've already appropriated the money and he can't undo that. No, okay, that's fine. Thank you for all the USAID money. We will spend it, but we're not going to spend it in the same way that you spent it for the same causes that you thought were appropriate.
Who is attempting to take away resources from the poorest people around the world. This is someone who is not a government official. He wasn't elected. He's not appointed. He holds foreign debt and foreign interests. And so we should all.
So do you. So do you. What qualifies you in a way that does not qualify Elon?
Look at this with cautious eyes and with curiosity to understand why he is making these decisions and why he's being allowed to make these decisions. I also want to remind people, yes, this agency was created with an executive order from John F. K., but it was also congressionally appropriated in 1998.
So what?
And so there is no authority that rests within the executive that allows them to sidestep the congressional power that we have to create these agencies and to allocate resources.
Yeah, you can allocate resources, thank you, but you don't get to tell him what he does with those resources or how he executes the laws, unless it's very specific in the statute. And there isn't a statute, even she admits, that created USAID. So the executive created it, they funded it, thanks. So he can do what he wants with that agency and that funding, and he will. He'll put it to good use. And they can sue in the courts if they think they have a leg to stand on to make the case that he can't do what he did. But they have not made that claim yet. We just looked at a lawsuit. They're talking about privacy rights, right? Everybody's talking about privacy rights because they know Trump can do this and has every right to do it. And they're just looking for something else to whine about. So here's AOC. She was also making videos today. Here's what she said.
This dude is probably one of the most unintelligent billionaires I have ever met.
Elon? She's talking about Elon.
Or seen, or witnessed. Which, you know, you can probably even glean that from watching these people on TV. Anyways, all of that is to say is that they don't do their homework. Clearly, like, they're putting 19-year-olds in at the Treasury. This dude is not smart. And the danger in the lack of intelligence and the lack of expertise that Elon has. I mean, this guy is one of the most morally vacant, but also just
say it,
least knowledgeable about these systems that we really know of. But the point is that what that means is that they're going to hit a button. Inevitably, they are going to hit a button and things can go sideways.
Whoa, inevitably. Well, that's like multiple syllables. She was way smarter than Elon is. So there's rocket scientist AOC dunking on Elon for being so stupid because he has no idea what he's doing. And he can't figure out an antiquated computer system that's built on proprietary software that only approves requests for funds. There's no other option, just approved. Here is Ron Paul, who we love and have loved for years, also making his point on USAID. He posted this after the news dropped that senators were being locked out of the building.
And thank you for tuning in to the weekly report.
Thank you, Ron Paul.
Audit USAID, then shut it down.
Yes!
As of this writing, when you attempt to access the U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID website or social media pages, you are informed that this site can't be reached. The media reports that the new Trump administration has not only frozen USAID activities, but may be planning on bringing it back under control of the U.S. State Department. Other reports, including statements by Elon Musk, suggest that it will be closed completely. If true, the closing of USAID may be one of the most significant changes President Trump has made among the many dramatic actions in his first couple of weeks in office. Many Americans may still have the idea that USAID is a government agency delivering relief at disaster site overseas. They may still remember the bags of rice or grain with the USAID logo on them. But that is not USAID. USAID is a key component of the U.S. government's regime change operations worldwide. USAID spends billions of dollars every year propping up NGOs overseas that function as shadow governments, eating away at elected governments that the U.S. interventionists want to overthrow. Behind most U.S. foreign policy disasters overseas, you will see the fingerprints of USAID.
Not anymore, because it's coming to a grinding halt. Shout out to Ron Paul for explaining that to us. And we'll wrap it up with Senator Kennedy, who is going to give us an interesting analogy about intercourse and omelets. Here's what he had to say.
It's kind of cool having a president again.
Yeah, it is.
Let me try to put all this in context for you. I like omelets. I mean, I really like omelets. I could eat an omelet at every meal.
I had one this morning.
I like omelets better than sex. Not really, but you get the point. I like omelets.
Yeah, not really.
You can't make an omelet without breaking some eggs. Now, President Trump ran for office saying, I'm going to review every single penny in the federal budget. Now, how are you going to review the spending in the federal budget without reviewing the spending? And that's what Mr. Musk is doing. Now, many of my Democratic colleagues and some of the tofu-eating wokarati at the USAID are screaming like they're part of a prison riot because they don't want us reviewing the spending.
No, they don't.
But that's all Mr. Musk is doing, and he's finding some pretty interesting stuff. To my friends who are upset, I would say with respect, call somebody who cares. They better get used to this. It's USAID today. It's going to be Department of Education tomorrow. And really, here's what's going on. For 4 years under President Biden, the people in charge asked one simple question. Who needs to pay more in taxes? Who needs to pay more in taxes? Well, that's not the question that the Republicans and President Trump are going to ask. Our question is, what the hell happened to the money?
Yep.
And that's all that's going on. If you notice, my Democratic colleagues and the USAID officials, they're not defending the spending. All they're talking about is process. Oh, it's an insurrection. And Elon Musk doesn't have the authority. Well, sure, he has the authority. The president gave it to him.
Yeah, exactly.
And all he's doing is looking at the spending. Just what the president said he was going to appoint Musk to do. Here's what I hope Rubio and Musk do. I would put together all this absurd spending into a booklet. I'd call a press conference, and in front of God and country and the corporate media and the USAID folks and my Democratic colleagues, I'd go over it, item by item by item, every bit of it. The DEI comic books, the transgender operas, the funding of gain-of-function research. I'd go over every bit of it and say, now, do you want to defend this? And they won't. They can't.
They won't and they can't. And Senator Kennedy is speaking like a man with a clean conscience. He doesn't have anything to worry about on that list that he can't defend or he can't communicate about, but the rest of them can. They're so panicked about it, they don't want you to even see what the records show. And like Kennedy explained, next stop is Department of Education. So get used to it, Democrats. Here's the president explaining what's happening next over there.
And on the Education Department, why nominate Linda McMahon to be the Education Department Secretary if you're going to get rid of the Education?
Because I told Linda, I hope you do a great job and put yourself out of a job. I want her to put herself out of a job. Education Department. So we're ranked number 40 out of 40 schools, right? We're ranked number 1 in cost per pupil. So we spend more per pupil than any other country in the world. And we're ranked at the bottom of the list. We're ranked very badly. And what I want to do is let the states run schools. I believe strongly in school choice. But in addition to that, I want the states to run schools. And I want Linda to put herself out of a job.
Do you think that's something you can do with an executive order, or are you going to have Congress to do it?
I'd like to be able to. Look, if I could give the schools back to Iowa and Idaho and Indiana and all these places that run properly, there's many of them. I think. So if you look at the list, Denmark, Sweden, Norway, believe it or not, China's doing very well on that list, a list of well-educated, where they run their school system well. You have a lot of countries, not surprising names. I think that if you moved our schools into some of these states that are really well-run states, they would be as good as Denmark and Norway and Sweden and some of the other states. And then you'd have the laggards, and you know who they are. I don't have to go to it, but you'd have the laggards, the same laggards that are laggards with everything else, including crime. But even them, you'll break it into systems. As an example, if you went to New York, you go to Westchester County, you go to Dutchess County, you go to Suffolk and Long Island and Nassau and Long Island. You have maybe 6 or 7 locations. And you have New York City, which would include the 5 boroughs. And I think even that would run much better than it does right now. Same thing with Los Angeles or California. You'd have Riverside, you'd break it up into 6 or 7, but most of them would be states, and you'd have one, like in Iowa, you give it to the state of Iowa, you give it to the state of Indiana, these are really well-run states. They don't have debt, they don't have problems, they don't have any crimes, relatively speaking, to speak of. And you would have education that would be the equivalent of Norway and Denmark and various other places that are at the top of the list. So we're at the bottom of the list, and we're the most expensive. We're at the top of the list when it comes to cost per pupil. We spend more money per pupil than any other nation in the world, and yet we're rated number 40. The last ratings came out, you saw them. So they talk about 40 countries. We're rated number 40. And I say that if we did this, we would go 20, 30 notches up. We could do great. And we would have some of the best districts in the world.
And we're going to get it done. So Department of Education coming up next, USAID on the chopping block. We also have many other federal agencies to get to. We're going to be here as they do. All right. So my friends, if you're just joining us, we had a great stream. We talked a little bit earlier. We saw that the president had Bibi Netanyahu over at the White House. And so we covered that a little bit today here. Looks like they had a press conference. Where were we? Yeah, so they had another press conference. Anyway, so that was happening. We talked about that. Then we talked about these two twins, like a double mint gum commercial. They came out and explained how the FBI employees and the staff and the special agents and all the whatever, how petrified and paranoid they are about what is coming down the pike their way since, they broke the law. They're suing. The FBI is suing Trump now in 2 different lawsuits. We talked about this one brought by FBI agents and employees themselves in the District of Columbia against the DOJ, and this one brought by the association and a bunch of other FBI Jane Does and John Does suing the DOJ because they don't want their names to come out, because we want to know what they did. They don't want us to know what they did. The Dems are also suing USAID, more specifically the Treasury Department, so that their records don't get released. The spending details they do not want us to see because there's probably corruption and criminality there. And many of their clients are going to get busted. We got tons of reaction from these people and AOC and Rubio and Tammy and Ilhan and the rest of them. But now, my friends, it's time to hear from you. And let's see what you say about all of this. Thank you so much for supporting our work here with your amazing super chats and donos. We're very grateful for you. And thanks for also considering becoming a member. We do members only streams in the morning where we talk about other things that we can't get to here. And there's a lot cooking lately, so we're jamming. So come check those out. You can become a member. Go to watchingthewatchers.locals.com or become a member on YouTube. And we'll see you tomorrow on the members only morning stream. All right. Let's see what you guys say about all of this and more today. We got some great donos here. Hey, what's going on from yesterday? Tony, hey, Munkets. We missed you yesterday. This one came in. Thank you, K-Bean, for catching us up. Tony, hey, brought in 5 membos. We got Weathercat is here. Jeff, what's up? Shane, we got Izzy Poor Mama's here. Amber LMT and JF Sebastian, gifted membos courtesy of Tony Hay Munkets in the house. One old guy's opinion says, oh, but it's their home. Well, says all the illegal aliens here have a home in another country, but they don't want to go home. Leftist reporters are rude, short-sighted, and foolish. I don't know if she was asking about illegal aliens in our country. I think she was asking about the Palestinians in what they say is their country, right? Saying, well, they say it's their home. And I think Israel's saying, not anymore. And Trump is on board with that plan. So we'll see what they say about that. One old guy's opinions says Maxine Little Richard Tutti Frutti on Rudy Waters. That's a hell of a name. Little Richard Tutti Frutti on Rudy Waters. Yeah, she looked amazing today. DJ Roach, hey, 9 months as a membo. Says Pam Bondi is on for 1 a.m. tonight. We saw that this morning, DJ Roach. Thanks for being here full term. We appreciate you. Happy new baby to us both. 1 a.m. tonight. I guess that's still on the schedule. I thought they might want to accelerate that or postpone it because it's 1 in the morning, but hopefully they do it. Good. Do something. Hey, Spuds is here. Says the Democrats are mad because the USAID money laundromat is now closed. Yeah, they're all upset about it. Hey, Voice of the People. Says Joe Sweeney. Hey, shout out to Joe Sweeney. He comes to talk with us again tonight, Off-Label Podcast. We will also be talking about USAID on YouTube. The Rumble Cut will be revisiting an old topic. So check it out. Off-Label Podcast. Have a great stream tonight. Tell Joe Sweeney we said hello. Ray K, what's up? 36 months as a membo. 3 years, Ray K. Holy moly. So much has happened past 3 years. Thanks, Rob. Thank you, Ray K, man. Thanks for being here. And shout out, looks like a Freedom Convoy Canadian flag up there. Ray K, thanks for being here for so long, man. We appreciate that. 36 months. We've seen some serious stuff. Hey, what's up? Sam in Texas is bringing in 5 membos. Thank you, Sam. Donna Smith is here. Dove Macy coming in. Mickey Kamer, Erdy24, and Cameron Ward, gifted membos, courtesy of Sam in Texas. Thank you, Sam. Hey, Sheila the Pooh is bringing in 10 membos. We got Elizabeth Rouchert, Don and Doodle coming in, Chris B, Texas Donna, Mr. Furley's here, Randy's retired, congrats, Debbie, Castro Valley Lip, Daniel Sanchez, and Debbie Marie in the house now, courtesy of Sheila Pooh. Welcome aboard, new friends. We'll see you tomorrow on the members only stream. Michael McKenna says, anyone hankering for a double mint gum? LOL, nice. I can't take any credit for that. That was a TV show line. I think it was a Seinfeld line. What was that from? I can't remember the episode, but I'm pretty sure it's from Seinfeld. Like most things. Hey, Sharpie guy, here we go again. Alinsky's rules for number 4 make the enemy live up to its own book of rules. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. Rob, I absolutely love your content every day. Sharpie guy, thank you for that nice comment. Yeah. Gonna have to refresh my memory on the rules for radical stuff. I remember that back during the Obama years. They're good rules, actually. They're pretty damn effective. And they worked for quite some time for them. They had Obama in charge, and they were in control of this country for a long time, and they had it by the neck, man. We were inches away from totalitarian communism. Gosh. Thank you, Sharpie guy, for being here. One old guy. One old guy's opinion says, read U.S. Code, these sections. FBI AG Judy Garland and Ice Cream Boy Biden are cooked if any of the J6ers and their constitutional rights were violated. Oh, yeah. I think that there are many of them who broke the law. Sharpening Man in Texas, a.k.a. Sharpie Guy on Locals, says, thank you for your coverage. Thank you, Sharpening Man in Texas, a.k.a. Sharpie Guy. Both spots, both locations. Sheila Pooh says, if they did nothing wrong, the FBI would have nothing to worry about. The J6ers were persecuted. Yeah, and as we saw from Enrique Tarrio, right, they're liars. He's saying they lied about evidence. They lied about testimony. We know that they buried evidence. Think about like exculpatory material that would tend to show the other side's innocence of the charges. They buried all of that crap, and they let it just percolate with HSI, Homeland Security investigations. They had let a whole separate agency. It was structured corruption. These other people do a bunch of legal work and investigatory work and criminal entrapment, and then they just preclude them from the criminal prosecutions. They were covering up exculpatory evidence in direct opposition to case law and precedent from our Supreme Court that interprets the Constitution and our rights. Glocky says, fine, okay. The feds want to do a lawsuit? Okay, this means the DOJ in cash, when he's confirmed at the FBI, can release all the documents with discrepancies on how they did the J6 investigations, the fraud, the waste spent prosecuting the J6ers, the entrapment done by the feds. And by the way, those career agents who are suing, how clean you think their service jackets are? I don't. And if they win the lawsuit, they can just get fired for some infraction someone finds. The FBI is a bunch of punk A cowards. Couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you for that one, Glocky. Dalben said, these are public servants, so most of it is open FOIA. Just go get their records and see what their salaries are. They work for us. Chubby says, so if the government employees can sue the administration for fear of their safety and rights being violated, can we sue the FBI for the same reason? Based off the J6 persecutions, I'd say we have the grounds. Yeah, they'll turn around and say, no, they've got qualified immunity. You can't sue them. They literally said that in the motion. That's how cowardly they are. And they just don't want their names out because they're going to get attacked. It's the same reason we can't talk about Judge Mercan's, or couldn't talk about his corrupt daughter and more. Knox is here, says, happy Tuesday, all. Certification of a class is not immediate and actually quite difficult to get them all certified as a class. So like in a class action lawsuit, you got to actually get a class of people and they have to meet certain check boxes in order to be certified to bring the claim. So she's saying it's actually hard. The entire class must be similarly situated, and they all must have exhausted all administrative remedies, and they must have a right to sue letter from the EEOC. Good stuff, yeah. Class actions are a very, I would say, specialized area of the law. So thank you, Knox, for the details. Hey, here's one from Glocky. Never forget, okay, these crap feds took a knee for BLM, which murdered and rioted all summer long. Yeah, here they are. And they're like, don't release our names, and we're going to sue you. These two look like they would sue you. That lady, too. Hey, what's up? Knox says, when the psychos shut down the criminal courts, I joined the panel of Children's Health Defense and Pacific Justice Institute. I represented a class fired from Raytheon over the jab mandate. Good for you, Knox. Thank you for your service on that. It's such a great comment. Glocky says, the FBI Agents Association rewarded agents who took a knee in front of BLM, proving the rot, it isn't just at the top. The FBI AA, okay, bunch of knee-taking criminal endorsers, I guess. Michael McKenna says Trump better do a change of venue on the FBI cases. Yeah, I mean, I think Trump has just the power of the executive. Like their lawsuits were pretty weak. It'll be fun to see what the court tries to do with it. Glocky says there was no lawsuit by their union over this one. Tear up Texas. This was from 2016. I remember an older incident back in 2016. Hey, John Ullman became a supporter. Welcome aboard, John. Great to have you. We'll see you tomorrow on the members only stream. Glocky says, I noticed the FBI union didn't file a lawsuit over this case when federal judge called them the real conspirators back from July 2023 from Glocky on that one. Thank you, Glocky. Shane reminding you to share, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and select all so you don't miss a thing. Rob on Rumble says, why didn't trained bomb sniffing dogs find the pipe bomb with a 60-minute wind-up kitchen timer? My job is important. I still have to arrest more J6ers. You're fired. Hey, what's up? Harley's dad. Hey, I'm at 28 subs. Thanks, Rob. I never gave up. Keep going. 28 is a very respectable number, and just keep on inching up. It's a slow but steady game. Keep it going, Harley's dad. The RP Games says, just following orders didn't work in Nuremberg, and it's not going to work with the FBI either. Trump's in charge. What's up? 17 months as a member, almost 2 full babies. Thank you, the RP Games. Looking forward to that one. Fred saying the same thing. I recall men in the 1940s, who just followed orders. Yeah, and the FBI is acting like that. One old guy's opinion says, this acting director looks like the 21st century J. Edgar Hoover's boy toy assistant back in the day. Oh, gross. Yeah, kind of, probably. Tulsi at 98% on Poly. Look at these numbers, baby. Look at all this winning in an image. It's a beautiful sight. Tulsi, RFK, Cash, Pam Bondi, 100%. It's happening soon. J. Edgar Hoover, one old guy. We're talking about his lovers. Who knows? What's up, Ed S? Thank you, Ed S, for the dono. No comment on that, Ed, but thank you for sending that one in. Hey, Deluxe Knight says, Brian Driscoll looks like one of the Three Stooges with that hairdo. Yeah, it's a very interesting resemblance there. Hopefully he's fired soon. Knox says, outside audits are a normal course of business. These USAID people are so not used to what a regular workplace does. It is frightening. It's like a little communist dictatorship where they just get endless money from us. Wild. Cuckoo's Cam says, okay, so the FBI had 6,000 people working on 1,500 J6 cases to, quote, protect the American people. But who investigated Ashley Babbitt's wrongful death? Shaking my head. Very, very few. I mean, and I think that they cleared that guy with like Macy's Day Parade. That's how much they loved him. Hey, Glocky's here. First flights to Gitmo are happening. We've got some images happening. Glocky's sharing some images here. First flights to Gitmo shared by an Intel account on X called Rage Intel. Thank you, Glocky, for sharing those with us. One old guy says, there's no crying in baseball, Dems, so just deal with it. Sharpie guy says the Congress boy ops had too much soy as a boy. Probably true. This one came in from Knox. Says, is anyone else liking Rubio these days? Man, little Marco grew up big time. Super Buff Shaft is sharing some information from Alex Jones. Thank you for that. One old guy says, a typical Dem tactic is to make a claim of a humanitarian crisis with no evidence at all. Trust me, that's what's happening. They are psychos. Hey, Tex Rick is here. Another great news night with Rob Cronkite. So much winning. More. It's amazing. Isn't it amazing, Tex Rick? It's great to be with you. The winning will continue. We're going to be here for it. One old guy's opinion says, where is your husband, brother, Ilhan? Sharpie guy says, I was very happy to hear you read Sweet Potato's response today. Prayers always work along the side of hope. Get on home, Sweet Potato in the house. We've got you covered. From Sharpie guy, 100%. Prayers and love and healing energy going over to Sweet Potato. Thank you, Sharpie guy. Former says, I don't believe that Duckworth. That's a amputee joke, Former. Knox says, Ilhan Omar can come walk the streets of downtown Houston to see needy, vulnerable people. I freaking gave my breath mints to a guy digging in the trash for food. He acted like I gave him a diamond. It's sad, Knox. Hopefully we get that stopped. Former says, I have never been accused of being politically correct. Definitely, yeah, definitely. And definitely not by me. Sheila Poo says, Omar, what about America's poor? Well, it's just 1%, okay? So we just have to spend it for the Somalians. Glocky's here. The Democrats, when they controlled everything under Obama, legislated a ton of congressional duties. Now it's coming back to bite them. To see how many times we've seen the courts rule against the states and the Republicans, it's not in the court's purview to get in between on political matters. I hope they rule correctly and not against Trump. One old guy says, OFAOC is making vids. Glocky says, Omar committed immigration fraud by marrying her brother. Think an investigation and indictment would be worthwhile. Snuggle Struggle is here. Says $50 billion in U.S. aid should be reallocated as restitution to all J6 political hostages, to those that had their liberty criminally stolen from them for 4 years. Yeah, you can't. It's really hard to pay back 4 years of solitary confinement. How would you monetize that or compensate for that? It's a lot. Glocky's here. Says shot meat chaser. Delaware judge went after Elon. Now Delaware is losing all their corporations. They're all being all fleeing the country, fleeing the state of Delaware, going to Texas. And I think I saw Spotify might be leaving, going to like Nevada, stuff like that. B.H. Williams is here. Says there are several statutes that authorize USAID, but each of them cite the president or secretary as defining how the policy objectives will be met. Right. So when the courts come in and they litigate over this, they're going to say, he has to follow the law. He'll say, I am. Idiots. Under the guidance, the agency is responsible for meeting the policies, right? So they delegated power to the president. He's using it. Why they can't sue over that. Fireman, what's up? Welcome aboard as a supporter. Great to see you. We'll see you tomorrow on the members only stream. We got this one from Norman Lee Smith Music. And if you want to jam your pants off, get onto a music app and search for Norman Lee Smith Music and party. Says, thank you for the focused analysis, Rob. Rock on. Rock on, Norman Lee Smith Music. And rock on, my friends, with Norman Lee Smith's music. Hey, Donut's linking it to us. Amazing. Thank you, Donut. Hey, Barb. Barb Etsy is coming in the house. Welcome aboard as a supporter. And here's one from First Amendment. Says, Rob, you're too young to remember the 1970s commercial. Are these like the double mint gum gals? Yeah. That was an actual commercial. I'm pretty sure it's from Seinfeld. What episode was that? I think I don't care. I can't remember. Somebody else I'm sure does. My friends, thank you so much for sending those in. Great comments, super fun. We appreciate you supporting our work here. Let's say hello to our friends on X before we wrap it up and go over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com for our members only after party where we debrief and hang out. Check it out, watchingthewatchers.locals.com. If you care to come and join us. Let's see who's joining us now today on X. What's up? It's Norman Lee Smith again. Great to see you. NY says, okay, Fred, yeah, NY says they had 172,000 criminal cases last year in New York. 172,000 in New York. So how many is that a month? Divide that by 12. It's a lot a month. Okay. The DOJ did 1,600 in 4 years with the FBI and 6,000 employees. It was theft. They stole money and they wasted time to go after their political opponents. And the size and the scale and the amount they spent is criminal. And I hope there's repercussions for it. Hey, Aubrey says, on what basis did they sue Trump? First Amendment, Fifth Amendment, and then privacy rights, really. All pretty weak claims. He has every right to do what he's doing. Ultra Trump says FBI sues Trump. LOL. Did these two switch ties, says Stench. Rob is over there. What's up, Rob? With a bunch of Rock'em Sock'em memes and more, tons of fun stuff. You can follow us and other watchers in the wild over on X at Rob Govea ESQ. We also had, hey, Michelle, thanks for sending this one in. Very nice. Says Kennedy signed the EO 10973, which created what is now the USAID agency. What is the evolution of the agency? Some act like Congress is charged with funding and oversight of the USAID. That's not a balance of power. Yeah, and I think that's why they're so freaked about this, is because they know there's really nothing else they can do. The agency was created. It was funded by Congress. So the money's appropriated, but what they do with the money, so it's like Congress almost shored up the executive order, but the executive order or the statute that appropriates the money to the USAID, they're not in there saying the president has to spend this on trans comic books in Peru. And if you don't spend it on trans comic books in Peru, you're acting illegally. It's not in there. So he doesn't have to spend it for that. He can change the purposes of the agency. He's doing that. They know he's doing that. They're just throwing a temper tantrum because their money train got cut off. Bye. Thank you, Michelle, for the dono. Dan Simpson says, hey, welcome, Dan. New supporter. We'll see you on the members only stream. Tina J. Dallas says the deferred resignation should have had an application process so that the crucial employees are retained. And I think some of them were not offered that deal. Like somebody here mentioned that they do, very important, like essential work with radio controls at airports or whatever. So like they didn't get the resignation offer. It's the people, I think, who are less essential, whatever that means. And they said we were not essential, so I actually don't even feel bad about it. But you're gone, right? You get the offer to go. And that's how I think we saw it land. So, my friends, great comments on X. Thank you so much for sending in those donos as well. It has been a beautiful stream. FBI's in terror, USAID losing all of their grift. It's been a great day, and the winning will continue from here. And so, we're going to leave it there on the day. We're going to go over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com and debrief for just a bit. Before we do, I want to say thanks to our amazing mods, K-Bean, Donut Mind Me, Carrie B, Playin' Hooky, Dog Digger, Janek, and special shout out to Just Rhonda, our purveyor of fine emojis. We should now have Leaf Blower Guy back up on the members only emoji chat, and we should also have Spotlight, and I think we're working on Cash Patel. So we're going to have the best emojis ever. Thank you, Just Rhonda, purveyor of fine emojis, for helping facilitate that. But my friends, that is going to be it for us on the day. It was a tremendous stream. Had a ton of fun with you. Thanks for hanging with us. Of course, Membos, we'll see you tomorrow morning. Locals, stick around for the after party. Otherwise, my friends, of course, we're going to be back here tomorrow at the same time, same place to get into it again. And in order to do that appropriately, we're going to need to see you right back here so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Sleep very well. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.